The royal chamber of the Veari Star Palace was silent except for the soft hum of the hovering chandeliers. Alien dignitaries, generals, and suitors from across the spiral arm had gathered, each hoping for glory, wealth, or political leverage. And yet, at the center of the chamber, the one being everyone had traveled across galaxies to court sat upon her throne with an unyielding expression. Princess Kilira of the Veari Empire. Tall, elegant, her emerald-scaled skin glistening faintly under the chandelier light. She was fierce and intelligent, heir to one of the galaxy's largest empires. And yet nobody wanted her. At least not truly. Each suitor's eyes carried calculation, not affection. To them, Kilira was a prize, not a person. A marriage to her meant access to fleets, wealth, and armies. But Kilira had refused every one of them. She had demanded, rather foolishly in the eyes of her council, that she would only marry for love. And love was something no prince or general could offer. The chamber's silence broke when another noble, draped in gold-thread robes, stepped forward. "Princess," he said smoothly, bowing low, "our union would bring stability to 3 sectors. I would honor you with—" "Enough!" Kilira cut him off, her voice sharp, cold. "You honor only yourself." Gasps rippled through the chamber. Another suitor rejected. The noble stormed away, humiliated, muttering about wasted journeys. At the back of the chamber, leaning awkwardly against a crystalline pillar, stood Daniel Hayes, an ordinary human from Earth. He wasn't supposed to be here. Daniel was a junior engineer on a Terran trade ship that had docked with the Veari fleet 2 months ago. Through a string of bizarre events, mostly involving a malfunctioning translator drone, an over-curious exploration of the palace kitchens, and accidentally saving a royal servant from a collapsing tower, he had somehow found himself in the princess's periphery. And now, impossibly, he was standing among nobles, pretending to belong. He knew better than to draw attention. The nobles already eyed him with disdain. A primitive human from a planet only recently accepted into galactic society was not worth their notice. But Kilira noticed him. She had noticed him from the very first day. The beginning. Kilira's father, Emperor Xyler, had decreed that she must find a husband within 3 cycles, or he would choose one for her. Duty demanded it. The empire needed stability. But Kilira resisted, searching for something she could not describe. When she first met Daniel, he had been covered in soot and apologizing profusely after the kitchen accident. Unlike the polished nobles, he had stammered, laughed nervously, and offered to fix the palace ovens with a wrench and duct tape. It was ridiculous. It was undignified. And it was the first time in years Kilira had smiled. In the weeks that followed, they spoke in secret. He told her of Earth, of oceans, storms, forests, and music that was played not by machines but by people. She, in turn, confessed her fears, of being bound to someone who saw her only as an empire, not as Kilira. Still, she never let herself imagine more. Daniel was human, ordinary, and she was heir to an empire. Yet, when the moment came and every noble failed her, Kilira's gaze swept the chamber and fell on him. And before she could stop herself, she stepped down from her throne, walked across the crystalline floor, and stood before the bewildered human. Gasps echoed as she leaned close, her emerald eyes burning into his, and whispered the words no one expected. "Will you marry me?" The chamber erupted. Nobles shouted in outrage, some laughed in disbelief, others demanded guards seize the human immediately. Daniel's mind blanked. Marry her. A princess. An alien princess. He glanced around, half expecting it to be some elaborate prank. But Kilira's gaze was unwavering. her expression strangely vulnerable beneath her royal poise. What? Daniel stammered, his voice cracking. Kilira straightened, speaking to the chamber. You all came seeking a throne. He came seeking nothing. And yet, he alone sees me as Kilira, not as empire. My choice is made. The uproar grew deafening. The emperor himself rose from his seat at the far end of the chamber, his towering form casting a shadow over the hall. His scaled skin shimmered with authority, his voice booming like thunder. Daughter, he rumbled, do you grasp what you are saying? A human, from a backwater world. You would bind our empire's fate to him. Kilira's chin lifted. Yes. Daniel wanted to melt into the floor. Every alien eye was on him. He could feel the weight of centuries of politics crushing him. This wasn't just about marriage, it was about power, diplomacy, and the future of empires. And he was the accidental center of it. He cleared his throat, his voice small. Your Majesty, with all due respect, I think there's been a mistake. I'm just an engineer. Fix things. I'm not this. The nobles sneered. One shouted, see. Even the human knows his place. But Kilira silenced them with a glare. You all speak of place, of worth. But what worth is a suitor who covets only power? He, she pointed at Daniel, is honest. He does not hide behind polished words. He sees me. The emperor studied her for a long, tense moment. Then his gaze shifted to Daniel. Human. Do you care for my daughter? Daniel froze. The truth. He barely understood what he felt. Admiration. Respect. Absolutely. Affection. Without question. But marriage. That was colossal. Yet when he looked at Kilira, standing defiant against her empire, his chest tightened. Yes, he said softly. I do. More than I can explain. The chamber fell silent. The emperor's voice lowered, dangerous. Then prove it. Trial. The Veari Empire did not allow royal marriages without proof of worth. Traditionally, suitors underwent a trial. Tests of strength, cunning, and loyalty. No one believed Daniel could survive them. Many hoped he would fail spectacularly, embarrassing the princess into abandoning her folly. The first trial was combat. Daniel was handed a blade heavier than any tool he had ever used and thrust into an arena against a Veari warrior. The crowd jeered. He didn't win. He couldn't. But he fought with desperate creativity, using footwork, feints, and sheer stubbornness to hold his ground longer than anyone expected. When the warrior finally disarmed him, Daniel stood bloodied but unbowed. The crowd, against their will, cheered his resilience. The second trial was intellect, a puzzle of interlocking star maps designed to test a ruler's mind. Daniel, an engineer, stared at it with growing confidence. Machines, circuits, navigation, this was his element. He solved it faster than most nobles ever had. The third and final trial was loyalty. He was offered power, titles, wealth, even Earth's elevation to greater galactic standing, if he renounced Kilira and returned home. Daniel didn't hesitate. No deal. I won't sell out the one person who actually treats me like I matter. The emperor watched all three trials, expression unreadable. The ending. The chamber filled again, nobles buzzing with outrage and disbelief. Daniel, bruised and exhausted, stood beside Kilira. The emperor rose slowly. Against all odds, the human endures. He has no armies, no riches, no titles. And yet, he has earned what none of you have. My daughter's trust. Kilira's eyes softened as she looked at Daniel.